Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we've got something pretty insightful for you, all you technical writers, documentation specialists, and IT pros out there.
Hmm.
Curt Robbins, senior technical writer.
Yeah.
Well, he suggested that we take a look at this article
Oh,
called
cool.
Three Superpowers of Exceptional Technical Writers. It's by Sachin Shenoy,
Okay.
and it was published on December 19th, 2024.
Gotcha.
And I got to say, I think you guys will find this one pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Shenoy basically says that the best technical writers, they bring more than just their writing skills to the table.
Right.
He outlines three, well, he calls them superpowers.
Okay.
And I got to say, after reading this thing, I think he is really onto something here.
I think what I really liked was that he doesn't just focus on just the technical aspects.
Right.
Like he really dives into those kind of intangible
Yeah.
qualities that take a technical writer from good to,
Yeah,
exceptional.
totally. And you know what? He kicks things off with this thing, the ability to explain.
Okay, yeah.
Might seem kind of obvious at first, but he makes this really compelling point about simplifying complexity.
Yeah.
And he's not just talking about understanding the subject yourself, right?
Right.
He's talking about making it understandable for someone who's coming at it completely fresh.
Yeah, and he uses this great analogy about explaining software to your grandparents
Oh, yeah.
versus explaining it to another technical writer.
Yes.
And it just really highlights, the adaptability that's required to be effective.
Yeah, it really is.
It's almost like having a toolbox full of different communication styles
Hmm.
and knowing which tool to use for which audience.
You're so right. It's not one size fits all, is it?
Nope.
This reminds me of this one time I was trying to explain this new cloud computing feature
Okay.
to this client who was completely non-technical.
Ooh, I can only imagine.
And
What'd you do?
I ended up having to use this metaphor about a virtual storage unit,
Oh, okay.
and it just clicked for him.
Wow.
It's like a light bulb went on.
That's awesome.
And that's when I really realized just how powerful analogies can be,
Yeah.
especially for those non-technical audiences.
Totally. And, that ties into another critical element of explaining well, empathy. Putting yourself in the shoes of your reader, right?
Right.
Understanding their level of knowledge, their pain points,
Yeah,
their needs.
absolutely.
It's all about bridging that gap between this complex technology and,
Right.
the user's desire for just clear and concise information.
So it sounds like this first superpower is like this blend of deep understanding, communication skills,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and a healthy dose of empathy.
Precisely. And that leads us perfectly into Shenoy's second superpower, knowledge of the subject matter.
Okay.
He's pretty clear on this one. You can't explain what you don't understand.
Yeah, I know some folks might push back on this, like,
Oh, yeah.
well, I'm a writer, not an engineer.
Right.
I don't need to be a coding whiz to write good documentation.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
It's a valid point. And I think, there's definitely a spectrum when it comes to technical expertise, right?
Mhm.
However, I think what Shenoy is really advocating for here is a deep dive approach.
Okay.
It's not about being able to code the software yourself, but about having a really solid grasp of the concepts,
Okay.
functionalities,
Yeah.
potential use cases.
So more than just surface level.
Exactly. It's about becoming a user advocate, someone
Okay.
who understands the product inside and out.
Yeah.
Not just from, a technical perspective,
Okay.
but also from a user experience perspective.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's about asking those right questions.
Yes.
Digging deeper than just the basic explanations and becoming really familiar with how the product actually works in the real world.
Exactly.
Okay, so that brings us to Shenoy's third superpower, which is mastery of the medium. Now, when I first read that, I thought he was just talking about writing skills, but it's actually much broader than that, isn't it?
Yes, much broader. This is where he kind of expands that definition of medium, right?
Yeah.
Beyond just the written word.
Right.
He's talking about understanding the tools, the formats, the design elements, essentially the entire ecosystem where your writing lives.
Okay, so unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
What does he mean by mastery in this context?
So it's about recognizing that different mediums demand different approaches, right?
Right.
Like writing a concise and compelling video script
Yeah.
that requires a very different skill set than, crafting a detailed technical manual.
Right.
And even within just written documentation, you might need to adapt your style depending on if you're creating a web page or a PDF guide or even an in-app help section.
So it's about being adaptable and recognizing that the medium is not just a static container for your words,
Right.
but an integral part of how your message is communicated.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper than that. He really emphasizes this importance of visual design thinking.
Okay.
And he uses this great example, like the quick start guide that comes with an iPhone.
Yeah.
Just brilliant illustration of how clean layouts, intuitive visuals, and minimal text can really effectively convey that complex information.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's almost like technical writers are like visual storytellers now,
Yeah.
using all these design principles.
That's fascinating. It makes me wonder if there are any other, like, overlooked aspects of this mastery of the medium. What about tools? We've got everything from, like, the classic Microsoft Word to,
Right.
these powerful authoring platforms like Madcat Flair,
Yeah.
complex content management systems.
Yeah, yeah.
You think expertise in all those tools is crucial to this superpower?
Absolutely. I think technical writers really need to be versatile, not just in like their writing style,
Right.
but also in their ability to like leverage the right tools for the job.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. A carpenter wouldn't just use a hammer for every task, right?
Yeah.
They've got a toolbox
Mhm.
full of different instruments, each one designed for a specific purpose.
Right.
I think similarly, a technical writer should be proficient in a variety of tools, understanding their strengths and limitations.
So it's not about being a master of every single tool out there,
Right.
but about knowing which tool is best for each project type of content.
Precisely. And being open to learning new tools as the industry evolves.
Oh, for sure.
Because the technical writing landscape is constantly changing.
Yes,
New technologies and platforms are always emerging.
Yeah.
So that willingness to adapt and embrace these new tools, it's essential for staying ahead of the curve.
It's like being a lifelong learner, right?
Yes.
Always curious, always experimenting, always,
Right.
Expanding that skill set.
And, that kind of brings us back to Shenoy's point about like how interconnected these three superpowers are. They're not just these isolated skills. They all work together
Yeah.
like synergistically, right?
Right.
You can't truly master the medium without a deep understanding of the subject matter.
Mhm.
And you can't effectively explain these complex concepts without knowing how to, leverage the right tools,
Right.
tailor your communication to the artist.
It's all connected.
Yeah, right.
Like a three-legged stool.
Yes.
If one leg is weak, the whole thing collapses.
I love that analogy. And I think that's what makes this article so valuable. It goes beyond like the typical advice about grammar and style, and it really digs into those deeper, almost philosophical aspects of what it means to be a really exceptional technical writer.
It's about being a problem solver,
Yes.
a bridge builder, like a translator of these complex ideas
Exactly.
into clear and understandable language.
Yeah.
It's about having a passion for clarity, empathy for the user,
Yes.
and unwavering commitment to excellence.
And I think Shenoy raises a fantastic question at the end of his article.
Okay.
He says, what traits or habits do you think make a technical writer stand out?
Ooh, that is a great question.
Yeah, I would love to hear what our listeners think about that.
Yes.
What are the qualities that you've observed in the best technical writers you've worked with?
What makes a technical writer truly exceptional in your eyes? Like Shenoy reminds us, the world of technical writing is this constant journey of learning, growth, and collaboration.
Collaboration, totally.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, happy writing.